I'm gone.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Lisa Jones. I'm with New Growth. My fancy title is I'm the Chief Economic Inclusion Officer. And basically what I do on a daily basis is oversee our New Growth Capital Revolving Loan Fund, our New Growth Women's Business Center, and our Workforce Solutions unit. So working on helping small businesses, creating jobs, and connecting people to those jobs. Today, we are lucky to have with us a cast of really educated and amazing individuals that I'm sure will be a great benefit to all of you if you're thinking about government contracting. We have Carolina Vargas, and she is the Business Opportunity Specialist for the Small Business Administration Kansas City District. I've worked with Carolina for several years. She is incredible. And she is a huge asset for businesses that are in the 8A realm and trying to get into government contracting. Also with Carolina today, we have Aubrey Salazar, and she is the Business Development Specialist with the Small Business Administration Kansas City District. And Aubrey will be assisting Carolina in her presentation, also a super valuable resource to you. Next, we have Alan Waldo, last but not least, and he is our PTAC specialist, and that's the Procurement Technical Assistance Center. So he is not only works out of Springfield on the MSU campus, but he covers 17 counties. Alan is an award winner, has, if you Google him, he's everywhere, and he is really great at what he does. PTAC is available almost everywhere in the United States, I believe, and Alan can probably get into that more. So if you're not in Alan's 17 counties, the information he shares with you will still be valid probably anywhere you are. So without further ado, I want to get started, and Carolina is going to lead us off today. Carolina.
All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining. And Lisa, thanks for inviting me to do this presentation with you guys. And I'm excited to have Alan with me as well, just to be able to talk more about what the PTAC does in assistance to the contracting community. So I'm going to share my presentation. Just let me make sure that you guys can see it. Are you able to see it? Yep. All right. Go ahead and go into presentation mode. All right. So like I said, my name is Carolina Vargas, and I am with the Kansas City District Office. And with me also I have Aubrey Salazar, who is the Business Development Specialist. We both out of the Kansas City District Office. Our office is a little unique because we do cover about 89 counties, half of Kansas and half of Missouri. So we are pretty busy with pretty short staff, but we're excited to be here today and be able to provide you some information. Today we'll be discussing some SBA contracting opportunities and the different certification programs that the SBA does have to offer. We're not going to go into a deep down, we're just going to go into an overview of what the certifications are. And Alan will be talking more about on the resource portion, what they have to offer, because we do partner with the PTAC. All right, so here's our today's course objectives. We're going to be talking about government contracting suitability. How does the government buy goods and services? How to, some tips on how to market your business and identify federal opportunities. And again, the small business federal government contracting certifications and the resources available to you. All right, so the first topic, like I said, is government contracting suitability. And the first question you got to ask yourself is if you're thinking about becoming a contracting or getting into the contracting world, is if your business is ready. Does the government buy what you sell? Or any type of services that you are providing? Do you have federal contracting experience? Do you have enough cash, enough inventory, working capital? And are you capable of fulfilling those government contracts? Sometimes people do come into the government contracting saying, yes, I'm ready to do this, but they don't have enough money, they don't have enough people or employees, or even be able to get a loan. So those are things that you need to find out, and also where to find those contracting opportunities. And like I said, Alan will probably be mentioning this later on. All right, so how does the SBA see a small business? So the SBA sees a small business based on size standards, which is determined by the NAICS code industry, and that stands for the North American Industry Classification System, and is based on the average of number of employees or annual receipts that you have. What kind of business do you have? Are you a sole source, a partnership, a corporation, or any other legal form? You do have to, in order for you to qualify as a small business, you have to operate in the United States, and you have to be for profit. So these are the kind of the main qualifications for you to qualify in any of the SBA certification programs. All right, so the next question, like I said, you want to ask yourself is, do you have adequate cash flow to finance government contract? And that's when I was talking about, asking yourself, do I have the money? Do I have the employees? And these are the things that we're going to be looking at. Your character, obviously the cash flow that you have, that collateral that you might be able to provide if you have to get a loan. The SBA does also have a loan program, but that's not really what we're here to talk about today. But if you do have questions on regards to that, we can definitely assist you with that. Obviously, capitalization and some of the conditions that will affect your ability to repay that loan if you are in need of one. All right, so the next, it will be how the government buys goods and services. So these are some of the questions that you want to ask yourself before you start leaping off into the contracting world. All right, so every year the government or Congress puts about 23% of federal contracting dollars that are intended for small businesses, which kind of translates into about $500 billion a year that are meant for small businesses like you, that are full and open competition, small business set asides, and sole sources. So how does that translate into the socioeconomic categories, which is what we'll be talking about today? So they usually designate about 5% for women-owned small businesses, 5% for small disadvantaged businesses to include the 8A, 3% for the hub zone, and 3% for the disabled veteran-owned small businesses. All right, so my next thing will be, now that you understand how the government is buying the goods and services, how are you going to go out and start marketing your business and identifying those federal opportunities that you can qualify for? All right, so understand what agencies and what products are being bought by the government. I was military, so I can tell you that the government buys from pens, pencils, toilet paper, anything that you can think of. Obviously, find who your niche is, that's going to help you to get there. Understand the areas that the government is spending money on. And obviously, the most important, which I think it is know your competitors and their contracts. Because if you know what they're doing, then you'll be able to compete with that and maybe come down at a lower bid. All right, another good example would be understanding your customers, who your influencers are. So here is a perfect example in the world. You are just coming out to understand who's providing this information. So, people like Alan, probably have enough information or contacts with contracting officers. So those are the things that you need to start looking for. Each agency has small business specialists. And I want to tell you that each agency kind of set their own goals, even though the government says that 5% for the small businesses and 5 for women owned and 3 for hub zone. but each agency has different targets. So you have to kind of be aware of that as well. Who your SBA point of contact is, which is in this case, myself and Aubrey, who your buyers are, and obviously your end users. All right, so for the contracting world, we always, and I'm, like I said, I keep going back to Alan. I'm sure he's going to be talking about the capability statement, but what the capability statement is pretty much a resume for your company, for your firm, in a 1 to 2 pages. And what is the purpose of this capability statement? This is what you're going to be presenting to these contracting officers. This is how you're going to get yourself in the door. It proves qualification, it introduces you to these contracting officers, it markets your company, open doors, and like I said, it builds relationships. And that's what's important about the contracting world. It's about who you know and how you put that into effect. You can use this as prime or teaming opportunities. So let's say, for example, you're not the primary one, but you can be a subcontracting person. We do get a lot of phone calls where, you know, some of the officers will say, hey, can you share a capability statement? I'm looking for either janitorial or construction or anything like that. And if we have those capability statements, we're able to provide those to them. So those are always good to have. And once you do register and start applying, your DSBS, which is I don't remember exactly what it stands for, but it would help you to for you to put a brief explanation of what your firm does, because this is what the actual contracting officers do see when they're looking for specific firms or next codes. All right, so here are some keys to successful meetings. Obviously, request the meeting. Do your homework. Be specific when you're approaching these contracting officers. They are very busy and they're obviously don't want to waste their time. So if you know that there is a contract coming that in the near future, you say, hey, I'm looking for to see if I can meet with you. I'm interested in performing or trying to sell my products to your agency. Conduct a pre-meeting research, keep track of the past. You can go into SANS and see what agencies are doing the kind of business you are providing, okay? And let's say that you do have a meeting with this contracting officers. If they made any promises, make sure you do follow through, saying, hey, just kind of check in and see if anything has come up, or if it's not in this quarter, is it going to be in the next quarter? Write them a thank you note and ask them to share information or even pass your capability statement, which was going to help you to be successful. All right, so here's another tip. The government kind of operates on a fiscal year, which is from October 1st to September 30th. So this is when you do your homework. The first quarter, you're kind of raising that awareness and building those relationships, contacting these contracting officers so that you get your foot in the door. On the second quarter, you can start leading those generation campaigns and responses, putting bids in, and obviously the last minute minute offers and awareness of campaigns that you can see. So this is kind of just an example of what you can do, but you obviously be proactive all the time to see what's coming available for contracts. All right, so we are going to be going into the a little overview on the certification programs that the SBA does have to offer. And here we're going to be talking about the 8A program first, which is the one that Aubrey and I oversee. We have about 50 companies that from construction to janitorial to IT. I mean, we have admin firms that are there available, counseling. So we have a little bit of everything. All right, so the first question you want to ask yourself is the 8A certification program appropriate for you? So the 8A certification is based on socially and economically disadvantaged individuals. And you do, for every single program for the SBA, you do have to be a 51% owner. So I'm going to put that out there. You have to, see that you have diminished ability to compete, that you have potential for success. Just like I explained earlier, you have that cash flow, anything that is going to be helping you to get contracts. Obviously, the proper NAICS code, the marketing ability, and commercial and government balance. You have to have a balance of both. So pretty much all of the certifications through the SBA have a lot of rules, and the 8A is one of them to have probably the most rules of all. And it's based on the 13 CFR Part 124, and these are rules that are made by Congress, so we cannot change those rules. Okay, so again, understand that the certification program is based on ownership and social and economic disadvantage. You have to have the control and management, which is that 51%. You have to provide, potential for success, have good character, have contract information, and yours in a small business program. So if you fit this category, you should be okay. So when should you apply if you are ready for the 8A program? Again, do you have the capacity to deliver those contracts? Enough employees, cash flow, you have good character, and you have past performances. So normally the SBA requires about 2 years of financials or that you are in business, but there are waivers for that. And also, are you open to advice and growing your business? Because that's really what our job, myself and Aubrey's job is to help you get business development. There's also trainings that the SBA provides, as well as through the PTAC that can help you, kind of tackle how to go and approach these contracting opportunities. All right, so like I was explaining, the 2 years in business is what we're looking for, but there can be waivers if you have business management experience, technical expertise, adequate capital, again, successful past performance, and the ability to meet those requirements. And from here, I'm going to let Aubrey take over to discuss a little bit more about the other programs. And I'm going to put myself on mute.
Great. Thanks, Carolina. Again, my name is Aubrey Salazar, and I'm the Business Development Specialist for the Kansas City District SBA. And I'll be taking you through the rest of the 8A Business Development Program eligibility requirements. And we'll take questions at the end. So like Carolina was saying, having sufficient cash flow, demonstrating success in the past on contracts, and being open to advisement from others. Carolina and I work with firms every day, and if you're not open to advice and advisement and a change of direction, these probably aren't the programs for you. So the 8A program is designed for historically, socially, and economically disadvantaged groups. So there's a lot of different groups that fall into that category, including minority. So African-American, Hispanic, excuse me, Pan-Asian, Sub-Asian. We have every minority you can think of, Indigenous, Hawaiian, the list goes on. So in order to qualify for these programs, you must have one of those you must be in one of those historically socially disadvantaged groups. What's the difference between socially and economic? Well, socially is that you belong to a group that this country has historically denied access to certain benefits. And so again, a lot of those groups, it's a pretty large group there. You can also be what we call preponderance of evidence. So if you're disabled and you've been historically denied access, or if you're a woman and you've been historically denied access, that falls into that historically socially disadvantaged group. Economic disadvantage. So we do require that your net worth meet certain requirements as $750,000 or less for net worth. And there are some deductions that you can apply to that. We don't count retirement accounts against you. We don't count the equity in your primary home against you. So there are some caveats there. Let's see. I'm just gonna swing on to the next slide here. Great. So the program is a 9-year program. And I know that seems like a lot, but it does take a lot to get firms into a place where they can operate completely autonomously. So 9 years in the program, and that's broken up into 2 stages, the developmental and the transitional. The first 4 years is developmental. So you work on developing relationships with federal agencies, going out and deploying your marketing strategies. You are really kind of digging in and growing your business. The transitional stage is a stage that in the 5th year triggers a requirement that obligates you to balance your 8A and non-8A contracts, so that by the time you graduate, over half of your sales dollars are no longer exclusively set aside for you as an 8A program participant in the government marketplace. So we want you to, be completely autonomous from the program when you graduate. Next slide. So the 8A application process. So before applying, you do want to register for a DUNS number. You do want to look up your NAICS code. And by NAICS, Carolina did describe that a little bit. I'm putting a link in the chat to the SBA NAICS codes. And basically, you're going to pick an industry and you're going to make sure that your business is operating as a small business in that industry. So it does have thresholds for dollars and number of employees. So you want to kind of look through that list for the industry you're working in and make sure that you are a small business. During the SBA application process, you can also pick many NAICS to which you're qualified for. And those NAICS will sort of drive what types of contracts you're going to be eligible for in the program. So if you're doing something like janitorial and all of a sudden, you're bidding on contracts that are in the IT industry or have IT requirements, that is not going, we're not going to make the connection there. So you want to make sure that during the application process that you are applying with all the NAICS codes that you're qualified for. In order to apply for this certification, we do put some tips there. Review the application guide, gather all the documentation the application is going to ask you for, and then finally apply online at certify.sba.gov. Now, the SBA realizes that this is a mountain of paperwork and you're going to need a mountain of tips and helpful advice to get this done. So I just put a link in the chat that's to a space they've set up, especially for new applicants. And it will do everything from give you a quick start to the application process. It'll give you a preparation checklist for the 8A application. It'll walk you through how to get a DUNS number, how to register in SAM. It'll tell you what an MPIN is. So it's just a lot of information that you're going to need to know. Next slide, please. So let me quickly go through the WASB and economically disadvantaged women-owned small business certification. So WASB is just women-owned small business. Disadvantaged women-owned small business is the same exact thing as a women-owned business, but you have an economic disadvantage. So earlier I talked about keeping your net worth under 750,000. You can't have more than 6 million in assets. Your average adjusted gross income for the last 3 years has to be under a certain amount. So make sure that those thresholds you're meeting. So I realize that those are pretty high numbers for a lot of small business owners even, but we do get people trying to squeeze through, you know, that have tremendous assets and they are not hurting at all, you know, from year to year economically, but they, you know, want that certification. So make sure that, you know, your personal assets, everything that you're getting personally from your business doesn't add up to those thresholds. Next slide. Oh, there we go. So is the WOSB certification appropriate for you? So 50% owned and controlled by one or more women who are US citizens. So kind of the same concept. You'll get to know that 51%. It needs to be 51% owned and controlled and daily managed by whoever is putting in the disadvantage, whether you're a service disabled vet, whether you're a minority, whether you're a woman, and depending on which program that you are applying for, it needs to have that 51% ownership or a combination thereof. Maybe you have two people of color and a third non-disadvantaged applicant. Then those two people, they can split that 51%, but it does need to be 51% combined ownership by the disadvantaged individual or individuals. A woman must hold the highest officer position. They must work at the business full time. So no figureheads, no, you know, a woman owns the business in name only. She has to be fully engaged with the company, and we will verify that and we will check on that and make sure that that it is a woman-owned business, not just in name only. There is no minimum amount of time for the business to be operational, which is different from the other programs because, as we discussed, the 8A requires 2 years. So, so that's good. So we're really kind of opening the door very wide to women-owned businesses and economically disadvantaged women-owned businesses. So if you are out there, put this certification on one of your lists to kind of explore. Next slide. Thank you. So as we discussed, the economically disadvantaged women-owned program, it is 750,000 or less in net worth. We did go over the 3-year average income, and it's 350,000. I was trying to think it was 250, but it is 350, which seems significant to most, but you do have to meet that threshold. So combine the last 3 years. If you are making over 350,000 a year, that is not a qualification for the ED-WOSB program. You can go for the WOSB, but you can't go for the economic disadvantage program. Next slide. So there are 444 NAICS codes available for the set aside and sole source awards. So when you look at that NAICS list I just put in the chat a few moments ago, only 444 of those are eligible for the WOSB program. They've somehow determined that's what they want to focus on, but make sure that if you're choosing a NAICS code off that list, that it is WOSB eligible. There are third parties that you can go to for these certifications if you don't want to go directly through the SBA. I believe there's 3 of them or 4 of them. So they're basically organizations focused on women, and I'm not sure about any fees, and the application process might be longer or shorter, but there are other ways other than applying to the SBA for WOSB or ED-WOSB status to, excuse me, for just the WOSB status to get through the application process. Next slide. So because the WASB program, I'm going to put a link in here for the WASB and EdWASB program. Because it's so different and it has different qualifications, we set up an entirely standalone site for the application process and to determine if you're eligible. So I would visit this beta.certified.sba.gov for additional information on WASB and EdWASB. Next slide. So that was it for the WASB and EdWASB, the HubZone certification. So the HubZone stands for Historically Underutilized Business Zone. Now this certification program is based on geography. So it really does depend on where your business is on a map in order to qualify, but that is not the only qualification. I'm going to drop a link in the chat to connect you to the map that determines if you're in a HubZone. The HubZone program does many things, but it also does deal with government set-asides if you are determined to qualify. Next slide, please. Again, the ownership must be 51% controlled by just a US citizen. The firm's qualification, the firm has to be in the historically underutilized business zone, and it really does need to be headquartered or principled there, which means you can't just have a satellite office in a HubZone and a bunch of other locations. You have to be primarily doing business out of this firm, brick and mortar in that HubZone. 35% residency. That's another hard mark to hit on the head, because you have to have 35% of your employees that also make that HubZone their home. So we do check on these things. We check on payroll documents. We check on your employee addresses. There's many different aspects of the verification process, and we check that you're small. So just looking on the map and finding your address, that's just one box that you can tick, and there's other, qualifications that follow behind that. So I would really look at those qualifications deeply and make sure that you're ticking off all the boxes for the HubZone program. Next slide. So we went over some of these things that that you would want to check off with the HubZone: principal office, ownership, control, and structure, owned by a US citizen. You need a birth certificate, you need, some sort of something that says that you were born here in the US, you're a natural citizen. Make sure that you meet the size and affiliation. So just because you're small doesn't automatically mean that you don't have to check that you don't have affiliation with other large businesses. If a majority of your income is coming from having some sort of relationship with a large business, we may include their size determination in your application. It really is for small businesses. Let's see. And business planning, you have to maintain that 35% of employees in the HubZone. So that can be sometimes a challenge because there's turnover. And if somebody, moves out of the area, you have to constantly recalibrate. But there are good parts of the HubZone, and it does allow the small business to, again, enjoy those government contract set-asides that, that can really add up to a business's growth early on. Next slide. So here's a list quickly of HubZone help. Alan Waldo, who's on the call, can also be a really great resource for answering some questions about HubZone and just meeting and determining your eligibility there. Next slide. And real quickly, I think we're going a little bit over, we do have a service disabled veteran-owned Small Business Program. The qualification is a little bit, or the verification rather, is a little bit different because it goes through the VetBiz and VA. So I'm going to put in the chat a way to verify whether you are going to be a good candidate for the Service Disabled Veteran-Owned Small Business Program. It's just a verification quiz that VetBiz puts on. And then the VA actually has many pre-application webinars. That's the next link there. And many times to choose from. But if you're interested as a service disabled vet and getting that certification and enjoying the set-asides, the contract set-asides that is one of the benefits, you can go to those two links and take your verification quiz and also sign up for a pre-application webinar. And this program really does follow, the same, basically the same requirements as the other programs. The 51%, again, the highest officer position, the day-to-day management. And so I think this is just a repeat of what I just said. Next slide. And so federal government has a 3% subcontracting goal for service disabled vets in this program. It assists large primes to identify service disabled vets to meet their subcontracting goals. So you really have that subcontracting component there too. And it's a great program to be a part of. A lot of hardworking professionals trying to get contracts and monies to service disabled vets through this program. So please check it out or ask some questions. Next slide. So our resource partners, really quickly, next slide, are Carolina and I, your business opportunity specialists, Alan Waldo, procurement center representative, Lisa Jones at New Growth. She's a great resource. So I'll let Alan explain PTAX and take a look at this slide for additional links to help you in your government contracting certification journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aubrey, for presenting that part of the rest of the presentation. So with that, we're going to pass it on to Alan, and we will answer some of those questions. Towards the end, I did see a question coming in about the husband being a retired National Guard. So we will answer that back to you.
And actually, I could only answer that right now if you'd like me to. I mean, we can. What I'm planning on doing, ma'am, is I will send you a email a little bit more about PTAC, and then perhaps we can have a kind of a visit offline. And you're up in the Jeff City area. Well, actually, I don't know where you're at, but we can. I can get you assigned to the right PTAC counselor. Perhaps you can have a conversation with them. So if that would work for you, so hopefully that answers your question. So I don't know about you all, but the SBA did a fantastic job, as they always do. We are very lucky to have some excellent representatives from both sides of the state. Actually, we've got a great office both in Kansas City and also St. Louis. I'm actually honored to get to work probably a little bit more with the Kansas City folks, just because I'm down in Springfield, Missouri, and they kind of divide the state by the west half of the state. So with that being said, I'm gonna actually turn off my email so I don't have things popping up while I'm sharing my screen. I think that's closed. So now at this point, I'm going to go and share my screen with you, and hopefully you all will be able to see that too. I'm going to get the slideshow going. So like I said, I'm going to talk a little bit more, continue talking about government contract. I'm with what they call Missouri PTAC, and we'll talk a little bit more kind of what we do. We'll talk a little bit more about what services we might be able to do to assist your company or assist your organization. But I also want to say thank you for allowing these fine folks to let me present today. I always feel a little bit outclassed when I get to work with these folks, and always feel honored to have an opportunity to share a microphone and share screens with them. So thank you all. So PTAC, who we are. Well, first off, PTAC equals Procurement Technical Assistance Centers. Lisa had mentioned that earlier to you. And we are funded in part through a grant with the Department of Defense. So our funding is not through the SBA. So there's also like the SBDC, which are the Small Business Development Centers. They're actually funded through the SBA, where we are funded through the Department of Defense. And then I'm actually employed by the University of Missouri Extension's Business Development Program. So I am an MU employee, but I do work down in the Springfield area. And actually my territory has grown a little bit. I no longer have 17 counties. I'm now up to about 22 or 23 counties. So I've got my reach kind of goes all the way down to McDonald County, which is a very, very far southwest corner of the state. I think I go up to Vernon County. It's kind of, I work with a lot of Vernon County companies at least, but I think that's also shared somewhat with the Kansas City offices. Kind of shoot across the state to St. Clair County, all the way through where Buffalo's at. So Dallas County, Polk County, and Bolivar. And then kind of come straight down to Springfield. So I'm in Greene County. So the larger towns I service are Joplin and Springfield. And then I also kind of shoot up Highway 44 up through Laclede County, where Lebanon's at, Webster County, where Marshfield's at. And then I'm also up Pulaski County, where Fort Leonard Wood's at, and Waynesville and St. Robert. But we've got 6 offices located geographically across the state of Missouri. Got a couple counselors in the Kansas City area, a couple in the Columbia area. I got a friend of the counselor down in West Plains. We got a couple counselors up in the St. Louis area, and then my Springfield area. So we cover as an organization all 114 counties with about 10 different counselors, plus the city of St. Louis. And our partner organizations, and I'm saying partner because these are the ones that are also under the BDP, the Business Development Program, include TAC, which is the Trade Adjustment Assistance Center, which deals with the manufacturers who have lost business to foreign competitions, and they work with the SBDC. But we've got a lot of other great folks that we work with. I mean, the ones that are on the line with the SEDE and the SCORE. It's really nice in the state of Missouri having a lot of different organizations that are willing to work with businesses. And one of the nice things about working with businesses such as ourselves is we are free because we are taxpayer funded. So what can we do as PTAC? We can help you out with your government registrations. I mean, we've mentioned SAM on here before, but there's also Missouri Buys, and we'll talk about that in a little while. There's DUNS, which is kind of going away fairly quickly. We can help out with the capability statements that the SBA had mentioned about. We can talk about finding bid leads for you and help you with the bid preparation to a point. We can actually help you get those socioeconomic certifications, and everything that's been talked about today so far has been federal certification. So the Hub Zone or the WOSB, 8A, all those are federal certifications. I'm going to talk a little bit today also about some of the state of Missouri certifications too. If there's pricing history for past contracts available, hopefully we can find that for you. Sometimes it's a little bit like fishing in the wrong spot. I've been fishing today for some information on a contract and I'm not coming up with it. But if there's pricing history out there, hopefully we can help find that for you. So you have a rough idea maybe how to price your services in the future. We can help you out with what they call the FAR, which is Federal Acquisition Regulations. And we're not attorneys, and I will not make a legal judgment for you on a FAR question, but I can always kind of look at something and say, hey, this is what I think this is saying. And to put it in perspective, the FAR, if I had the book with me, it's about 3 or 4 inches thick. And obviously it's no longer a book, but it's all the rules and regulations of both government contracting officers and contractors have to follow in order to do business with the federal government. GSA schedules, that stands for General Services Administration schedules. About 20% of all purchases by the federal government are done through GSA schedules. And the best way to describe it is it's a catalog with thousands upon thousands of contractors that sell products anywhere from paving machines to uniforms to computer services to all kinds of IT type services. To personal management service. I mean, if you can dream it, it's probably sold on a GSA schedule. You have to what's called the briefings to find out either why you want a contract or didn't want a contract. We've also got a lot of online training type things as your PTAC client. We've got Govology, which it currently has about 140 different courses on it. All has to do with federal contracting. We can help you out some with what they call the CMMC, which is the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification. It's becoming a very, very hot topic over the last couple of years, especially with all of the cybersecurity attacks that seem to be going on around the world. We can also help you out with what's called SBIR and STTR. Those are grants, basically high-tech grants. And the SBIR stands for Small Business Innovation Research Grant, and the STTR is basically a transfer grant that has to do with working with the university. And then if many other topics, we probably could add 2 or 3 pages of nothing but services PTAC can help you with. So I use Missouri PTAC. I think first off, we've got expertise. Our counselors are very well trained. I mean, it's PTACs across the country. We've got to do a certain amount of training on a yearly basis. And the nice thing is, if I do not have an answer for you, and you can ask me a question and I may give you a really blank stare, and this happens about once a week where somebody will ask me a question I have no idea how to answer, I will usually tell you that I will get back to you. And if I cannot research and find the answer on my own, there are a lot of other experts both across the state of Missouri and across the country that I can refer to. In addition, I've got a few law firms I can kind of tap their brains a bit, plus some of the federal contracting officers. Collaboration, because you're working with Missouri PTAC. I'd already mentioned to you that we also have connections with the Army, with the SBA. We've got connections with the SBDCs. I've got a lot of folks that I know, counseling folks or contracting folks with the Army Corps of Engineers. And as I mentioned also before, because we are government funded, our services are at no cost to you. And that's really an important distinction, because the very first opening way to get into government contracting at the federal level, at least, is through what they call the SAM registration. And SAM stands for System for Award Management. And there are a lot of companies out there that will try to charge you up to $600 to $700 to do a SAM registration for you. I've done probably 1,500 of those things. And realistically, if we've got all the information we need and we're not having issues with the computer system that day, it will take us about 45 minutes to an hour to do the initial SAM registration, somewhat depending on how complicated your company is. PTACs are nationwide. I don't know if we've got anybody on here today that are not Missouri folks or not. We don't normally cross state lines. I make that statement, and I probably work with, I've got a client I work with in New York City. I've got a couple clients in Illinois, and I've got a couple clients down in Texas. Most of them had moved from Missouri to a different location, but we don't normally cross state lines. We are on all 50 states. North Carolina does have a PTAC that is not currently funded. I'm not sure why, by the DLA or the Defense Logistics Agency, which is part of the Department of Defense, but they do have a PTAC that is formed there. Also DC, Guam, the Mariana Islands, where it's actually tomorrow right now, Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. So there are PTACs literally in many of the different territories belonging to the United States. We also have what's called Native American PTACs. So if you are a Native American, there are a lot of different rules that are for Native Americans, and I will work with the Native American company. However, though, there are sometimes questions I need to ask of a local Native American PTAC to try to get some of the real answers for you all. And then our national organization, and this is probably at least taking note of, is this aptac-us.org. So if you were to visit that website, the very front page will show you a list, show you a picture of the United States. If you click on your state, you can find your local PTACs there. And that's the professional organization with about 700 members in it. And I've been very honored as I've been able to serve on their board for a couple of years. So it's a great organization. And I think is one of the places where I am so glad that Missouri PTAC is a member, is involved with the APTAC. So yes.
Are you presenting? Because we can't see your slides.
You can't see my slides. Oh, crud. I wish somebody said that before. Oh, that's embarrassing. Oh, wow.
I sent you a chat, but you were engrossed in your.
I'm in
presentation.
sprinting mode. Wow, that's embarrassing, folks. Can you see them now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna click through these real fast. I mean, here's kind of what I was going to really look good instead of having to look at me. I'm sorry. There's our PTAC services. And can we make these slides available for people? Because your
Yes,
PTAC guy was brain dead on this.
We'll send the slides out to everyone who's registered after the event.
Good. I'm sorry. I did not realize that. And you're right. I was in presentation mode and paying no attention to the chat. So. Okay, so there's where we're at. So why should you consider selling to the government? That is embarrassing. I'm sorry. Oh, well, we'll move on. We'll go forward for me. There we go. Well, and part of the reason why you should consider selling to the government is literally the government buys just about everything. I've got pictures here of various things that the government has procured in the past. I've got over on the left side here, I've got a gentleman riding on the Army mule. There was actually a solicitation that went out at one point where they were asking for somebody that was a company that could actually take care of the Army mule for West Point. I've got a picture of a gentleman here playing bagpipes. I've seen solicitations in the past where the federal government is trying to procure people that can teach others how to play bagpipe for military funerals. I've got a pretty nice little lawnmower here. I've seen solicitations where the federal government's out there buying $18,000 to $20,000 lawnmowers. I've got the laundry machines here. One of the larger contracts on a yearly basis at Fort Leonard Wood is a laundry contract. I've got a turtle here. Probably the one that I liked the best was about 5 or 6 years ago. There was a solicitation in the state of Hawaii that was looking for a veterinarian that could actually respond to beach sea turtles. Thought that was a cool thing to see. I've got worship leaders. So if you are a Muslim, you are Protestant, you're a Catholic, and you were to do a search, you could probably find an opportunity to do preaching, at a various military bases. I've even got a cricket down here. And the cricket, I don't think I've seen the federal government ask for that yet. However, I've not looked. But for example, the cricket is something that the city of Springfield buys either on a yearly basis or an every other year basis. And that's to feed the critters at the Dickerson Park Zoo. So once again, if you can imagine it, the government's probably buying it. A little bit further breakdown. The last number I saw is that we're up to about $650 billion per year. And I'm kind of an accountant by training, and that number just kind of made me in awe. So I began breaking that down, and that's about a $1.8 billion a day is what the federal government's buying. You get all the way down to a minute, that's about $1.26 million a minute that the federal government is spending of our taxpayer dollars. And then a second, it just befuddles me. It's $21,000 a second. I mean, just unbelievable numbers. And with the infrastructure bill that got passed, those numbers are going to start going up rapidly with some of the bridge contracts and some of the other work that's going to be done with the infrastructure. And so if you've ever thought, hey, do I have maybe a product or service that the federal government maybe be buying through the infrastructure bill, it may be time to think a little bit more about putting the government in as a potential customer for you. Now, I've been saying that the government buys just about everything. There are certain things that if you walked up to me and said, hey, I own a restaurant, but we don't offer catering, I'm going to tell you there's no reason at all to get you involved in the government selling. If you're a catering service, perhaps. We cannot help with marijuana dispensaries. It's in fact, Missouri PTAC cannot even help with that because at this point it's still against federal law. I mean, it's a state law thing, but it's against federal law. If you own like a pawn shop or boutique shop or gift shop, the odds of selling to the government's pretty slim. At least, they may walk in with a credit card, but then you may not even know it's the government. Personal services, massage therapists, beauticians, barbers, and nail salons. I did see a solicitation come through about 6 years ago to get a barber into the one of the federal office buildings to help cut Congress's hair. So there, I can't say never. I never say never. Entertainment venues, clothing store, kind of depends, vape shops. So there are services that are probably not worth your time to think about, like registering SAM or doing something, try to get yourself positioned with the federal government. Other considerations, and the SBA did a wonderful job of covering this. What's your past experience at construction bonding levels? So in other words, if you're a construction company and there's a $10 million project, you can only get bonded for up to about $2 million. You're kind of wasting your time. However, with that being said, the SBA has actually got a program where you can actually increase your bonding levels quite a bit. And there are occasionally about once every 2 or 3 months will there actually be a presentation on how to tap into the SBA for bonding levels. Length of time in business, financial results. You all can read that. You can read the list that I've got listed here. But like I said, the SBA did a wonderful job covering that. So the basics then of doing business with the federal government, we keep talking about SAM, or the System for Award Management. That is really the first step that you must take. And that gets you assigned what's called a CAGE code. And CAGE stands for Commercial and Governmental Entity Code. And it's a 5-letter and digit code. So your CAGE code might be 123AB. I don't know if that actually exists out there or not, but they will assign a CAGE code to you, which then is what you've got to provide to the contracting officer. It is a multi-step process. So the first thing I usually like to tell people if they're a brand new business is they do need to be registered with the applicable Secretary of State's office. So that is only the case if you're an LLC, sub-S corporation, C Corp, and we're not probably supposed to be talking about nonprofits, but there are nonprofits can register with SAM also. So you want to be registered as a nonprofit too. If you're a sole proprietor, probably having a fictitious name with the Secretary of State's office, not a bad idea. I think it costs you maybe $7 for 5 years, so pretty cheap. You got to have a DUNS number, and that is being replaced in the next month and a half or 2 months by what they call a unique entity identifier. But step number one is you got to have a DUNS number that has your actual physical address on there, and not a PO box. You need to have your federal taxpayer ID number. So if you do not have a taxpayer ID number for your company, you need to apply for that with the irs.gov. Or if you're a sole proprietor, that is your social security number. And then you do the registration in SAM. So what do you need for SAM? Well, you need the DUNS number, which I mentioned, with the exact name and the exact physical address. So if your exact name of your company is Acme Building Company, LLC, You want to make sure that you've registered as Acme Building Company LLC, or it will be rejected by SAM. They will also probably do a check to make sure that the physical address that has been registered by Dun and Bradstreet is actually truly a physical address. And even to the point where sometimes it will pull up Google Earth, or I'll pull up Google Earth to make sure that it looks like the company is actually sitting in that location. Get your federal tax ID number. You need to have your bank account information. So that would include your routing number, your account number, and then the bank's phone number. The reason why you have to have that information is the federal government likes to pay you electronically. In fact, if you say, I don't want to include those numbers, there's no way to get past that on the SAM registration. At that point, the SAM registration is finished and you will not get a cage code. Average revenue for the last 5 years, and then your average number of employees for the last 12 months. Those 2 bullet points are to determine if you're a large or a small business under the NAICS codes. And keep in mind that there are a lot of really good sized businesses that are actually small businesses. So I think like a NAICS code, for example, for a construction company, somewhat guessing at this, but I think the last number I saw for like a general contractor is like $41 million. I mean, it's a large number. And typically if you're working as a manufacturer, typically it's based upon the numbers of employees. So about 500 employees is kind of standard. Got to agree to many different, they call representations and certifications. And then it's always good to have keywords and a capability narrative put together, and then past performance. And that has to do with what they call the SBA Dynamic Small Business Search that Aubrey had mentioned to you. So that's called the SBA DSBS. Unfortunately, recently the DSBS site's not been working great, but when it's working, it does become the primary spot where contracting officers can locate your company in order to try to do business with you. So having a good SBA DSBS registration is always important. So here's just an example that kind of pulled. These were 2 cleaning companies from a couple of years back up in Alaska, and I realized that Fairbanks and Sitka are nowhere near each other. But if I were a contracting officer, I was looking for a cleaning company to work with. I've got Expert Cleaning with Miss Gwenda Gilbert, and I've got Shelley's Cleaning with Miss Michelle Moles. Expert Cleaning gives me a capabilities narrative. They give me all types of keywords: custodial service, janitor, carpet cleaning, painting, yada, 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 on down the line. So if I am a contracting officer, I'm looking for somebody that might be able to do vent cleaning, for example. If I put the word vent cleaning in there, then I would be able to find Expert Cleaning, and I may call them up and say, hey, look, I've got a small project. I've got about a $10,000 project. Would you like to do the work for me? And they may not even put that thing out to bid. So that's the importance of the SBA Dynamic Small Business Search. These were already covered earlier. Talks about the set asides. So small business 23%. You can see the other numbers down below that. Basic requirements were also discussed too, being U.S. citizen, small, in your primary NAICS code. And the important things for me is that the owners that are claiming either woman-owned business or service-disabled veteran-owned small business or small disadvantaged business have the day-to-day and strategic control. An example that I will give you is about 3 or 4 years ago, I received a call from a physician. There was a 3-partner physician group. 2 of them were service-disabled vets, 1 was not. They wanted to become a service-disabled veteran-owned small business. So as the conversation carried on, I asked the question, I said, so does the non-service disabled veteran-owned small business get to participate in decisions? They said, oh yeah, he gets to participate in every decision. So we're going to try to decide to go to a hospital, then he can either say yay or nay, we don't want to go to the hospital. I said, well, right there, you've told me that you're not controlled as a service disabled veteran-owned small business. So we'd actually be wasting our time submitting the application to kind of become an SDVOSB. And they understood that, but if you're going to claim whatever you're claiming, whoever has that certain characteristic has got to control the business. And then HubZone, as we were kind of talked about last, has to do with the location of the business and where the employees live. Personal net worth, we've kind of beat this to death too. So basically, I always like to call it the untouchable retirement account. And then the fair market value of all the assets, including home and business, is less than $6 million. But like I said, the SBA did a wonderful job covering that with you all. So speaking beyond, because I don't usually just like to think specifically about the federal government, I also like to think about other locations. So like in my case, City of Springfield, Missouri State University, University of Missouri, Missouri Southern State University down in Joplin, OTC, Ozarks Technical College. But the state of Missouri offers 4 different certifications too. One of them is a woman business enterprise. They have the minority business enterprise. They have a service disabled veteran enterprise, and then a disadvantaged business enterprise, which is put on by MoDOT. And MoDOT actually can make the approval, or it can be approved by the Lambert Airport or the Kansas City Airport, the Kansas City International Airport. And one that I did not put on there is kind of a subcategory too of the disadvantaged business enterprise. What's called an ACDBE, which is an airport concessionaire disadvantaged business enterprise, which allows you to actually sell your merchandise like at airports. But so if I'm talking to a business and they're registered in the federal government, says, you know, I'd really wouldn't mind selling to the state of Missouri too, I will always make the recommendation at that point, and we go ahead and get them registered for whatever they may be eligible for through the state of Missouri. Now, I don't get overly excited by the DBE or the disadvantaged business enterprise unless they were actually doing more like road construction type work. But those are other opportunities that Missouri PTAC can help you with. So where do you find solicitations? I'm just going to give examples here of two. You've got the federal solicitations at sam.gov, and you've got the state solicitations out of all words, Missouri Buys. So I went in yesterday and I did just a quick search under the contract opportunities, which I'm kind of pointing at with the arrow there. And my search was basically anything that the federal government currently has out there that's due in the next 30 days. And, you know, there was like I think there were 67 or 41 responses total that's due in the next 60 days. And this just gives you kind of a rough idea of what the federal government is currently buying for the state of Missouri. Grounds maintenance for Whiteman Air Force Base up by Sedalia, and I guess they're Knob Noster. A video surveillance system for preventive maintenance inspection, Jeff City. I don't know what that's all about, but it's something that the government's trying to buy. Grounds maintenance and snow removal services at various sites around Missouri. So they'd be federal sites around Missouri. And then the GSA, who I had mentioned earlier, who also has the catalog, is also a large lesser of real estate. They're looking for office space up in the Kansas City area. So there were, like I say, 41 different things that yesterday the federal government had an interest in buying that closes the next 30 days. Did the same thing for the state of Missouri. I just took what the open bids were the state of Missouri by going to the missouribuys.mo.gov/bid board. And of the 67 open bids, I just grabbed a few of them: lawn mowing services at the Joplin regional offices, janitorial services, and got the pictures on top of it, Crothersville, barber supplies and accessories, which actually kind of caught me as a little bit interesting, which I imagine without reading into is probably for the state prison system. Data services for the national change of address for the Department of Revenue, and then a re-roofing project at a St. Charles maintenance building. So that's the place where you can find the different contracts that you may be eligible to bid on. But you also, just like with the federal government, you also have to register in Missouri Buys. It's somewhat like a SAM registration, not as many reps and certs, takes about the same length of time. And instead of using the NAICS codes, they use what's called the United Nations Standard Products and Services Code. And there is a NAICS codes. I don't remember the total number of NAICS codes, but there are like 60,000 of those UNSPSC codes. So they can kind of be, sometimes about half the time I'm helping with somebody with Missouri Buys, it's researching those codes to make sure we pick everything up. You also get a little marketing page, kind of like you do the small dynamic business search. And unlike SAM, and I do not like this about Missouri Buy, there's not a public search engine like there is for SAM. So if you're registered in SAM, I can actually find out information about your company. I cannot find out information about any companies registered in Missouri Buys. Other sites and registrations, and I just chose some of the ones right kind of close to me. But if you're wanting to do business with, like, for example, the city of Springfield, you've got to get registered with Demand Star. If you wanted to sell to Missouri State University, they've got their own solicitation posting. You got to register it, and OTC uses what's called Ionware, and the Springfield schools use Ionware. My thought on all these places is we can help you get registered in those, but if you're planning on selling to Missouri State University, I would not be spending 30 minutes before you're supposed to submit your bid trying to figure out how to register to do business with the state of Missouri. So that's something just to, if you're wanting to research other sites, my recommendation is, so for example, why don't we say you live in Joplin, why don't we say you live in Columbia? If you typed in a Google search and put in Columbia, Missouri procurement, you should be able to find their website and what is available and what they're trying to buy at any given moment. So you find a solicitation to bid on. Here's kind of the rules of thumb I like to spend with my client. Number one is give a really honest assessment of your abilities and your likelihood of winning. If this is a complicated project that you've never been involved in before, odds of you winning that project are almost slim. I tell you to read, reread, and potentially reread again the entire document. You want to understand exactly what the government's buying. You want to understand what the government's requirements are to buy it. And then also allows yourself to familiarize yourself with the grading scale and how they're going to award the contract. Keep in mind that it's not usually about price. Price is normally in there, but sometimes price is the least of the 3 or 4 things that they're evaluating because they want to make sure they work with a company that can do the business. Contracting officers are very risk adverse. They want to work with companies that can actually do the job for them. And if that's got to cost them an extra 10% more to get that job done, they will a lot of times pay that extra money to get the job done. Do you actually qualify? I mean, have you been in business a length of time? Springfield, City of Springfield right now has got a solicitation out to do mowing services. Mowing services include the Springfield Airport and some various rights of way around the city streets. One of the things that the city of Springfield's got now is they want a company that's been in business for at least 5 years. They might be willing to kind of maybe draw back on that a little bit. But if you're a brand new business, the city of Springfield is not going to award that contract to you. It's just not going to happen. And plus, they're like City of Springfield, you make sure you've got the right equipment to do it. So both of the plots that you're talking about mowing at the airport are both 12-acre plots. So you can't do that. I mean, you got to have a pretty nice mower to cover 12 acres if you're going to mow it 27 times in a year. Look carefully at the timeline. So why don't we say you're awarded the contract? They usually will have what date the contract will begin to work, and then usually what date they want the project done by. And the scary part about that is they can actually do what is called, oh, good Lord, I just went blank on it. But it's basically has to do with being penalizing you if you don't get the job done in the right time. I'm going to think of that here in a second. But so if it's like a road project and you don't get the road done in the amount of time, they can actually start deducting like $1,000 a day. Liquidated damages. So they can start like deducting like $1,000 a day if you don't get it done in time. And then if the contract's been awarded before, what was paid, who won it, et cetera. So it's always good to have that research. So my recommendations is connect with your local PTAC. If you don't know who your local PTAC is, if you would like to email me, I would be more than happy to introduce you to a Missouri PTAC person. And or if you're out of state, I've got a lot of contacts. I know a lot of people across the nation. I can always make those introductions too. Nice thing about connecting with your local PTAC, we can really give you an honest assessment of your contract readiness. Are you really ready to become a government contractor? We can help you out with pretty much any of your registrations. We offer free education. We can assist in socioeconomic registrations. So if you want to become a WSB, there are, as Aubrey had mentioned, there are four different organizations that will actually do the certification for you. Each of those four companies will charge you anywhere from $300 and above. I can do a lot of hand holding and kind of help you through a registration process in the WSB. We can really help you set the expectation of what to expect. And then we can also kind of, so if you're thinking you've got maybe the potential, I really, really highly recommend you do consider developing a strategy to include government entities and government buyers as a potential market. So that being said, that's me. That is my office address. I'm in the E-Factory downtown Springfield, which is part of Missouri State University. Really the best way to probably connect with me though, because I am in and out of the office. I'm home today, as you probably see from the background, but I'm in the office 2 or 3 days a week. But the very best way to communicate with me is via my email, which is Waldo. So WALDO, like where's Waldo, AJ @missouri.edu. So I welcome conversations I have with you. I do appreciate the time that you've taken to listen to us today. And once again, I thoroughly appreciate the opportunity to work with the New Growth Initiative folks and also the SBA and making this presentation. So with that, I'm going to stop my share. That, or maybe I should leave it up a little bit longer because it took me forever to get it up anyway. But there you go.
Thanks so much, Alan, Aubrey, and Carolina. We so appreciate the share of information. If you're listening to this webinar and thinking, oh my gosh, this seems like a lot of work. Well, it is a little bit of work, but there's also a huge team of people that are very willing and able and open to helping you through this process. I have a great example. We had a small business that started their own commercial cleaning. And one of the services we offer through New Growth is we do some microfinancing. So we do loans from $500 up to $50,000 for folks that are maybe a startup or a credit challenge, so they can't get into a bank. But we did a small loan of $4,000 for 3 months worth of payroll. And this company was able to obtain some contracts doing cleaning for some state office buildings. Now they're in the process of hiring 6 new staff within 6 months' time and have picked up several new contracts. So kind of what we do on the New Growth side, all that to say, contracting through the government, I see as like hopping on that Metrolink train and taking your business down the fast track instead of horse and buggy down a gravel road somewhere. So some of the things that we do at New Growth at the Women's Business Center, besides Linden Capital, we are designated by the SBA as a women's business center. So we can help with the WASB, the Women-Owned Certified Business. So that's a designation we can help you with. We can also help you. Aubrey and Carolina both mentioned business planning. We have staff that can help you one-on-one, as well as utilizing, we can give you access to free software through LivePlan, which traditionally would cost around $100 to $150. But that software prepares your business plan and your financial forecast to look exactly like the SBA lenders like for it to look. And also the SBA in general when they're looking at contracting. So we can do one-on-one virtual sessions with you, or we can give you that product and just help you when you need. It's up to your comfort level of how much assistance we would give in that. The last from cleaning one office building to now having multiple contracts. So scaling is a big thing for small businesses, and government contracting is one of the easiest ways to push yourself into a scaling issue. So it could be you doing your business, you get a government contract and you need to hire a multitude of folks. Now you're worrying about HR issues, payroll issues, taxes, all of those things. Do you need multiple locations? How do you handle all of these people? So we can help you with scaling as well. We offer fast tracking and launch you courses, and are getting set up to be providing the scale up trainings here in the next few months. So we're happy to help you with any of those things. Like all of these other resources, we are free to you, no charge, as part of our relationship with SBA. So we're happy to do anything we can to help. At this point, we are one of 4 women's business centers in the state of Missouri. They're officially Kansas City is in Kansas, so I guess we're one of 3. There's also one in Columbia through CMCA, and then also in St. Louis through the United Way. So those are our sister organizations. We are a women's business center. However, we do serve men as well because we are an economically disadvantaged area. So if you need assistance with any of those things, feel free to reach out to anyone on this call and we would love to help you. Does anyone have any questions?
Can people just, I mean, can you just ask it online if you want? I mean, can people talk out loud?
I don't think that they can, I don't think they have access to microphone. So, yeah. Carolina has put her email and her phone number in the chat. We'll be sharing all of the presenters' email and contact information with the slides, hopefully within the next 24 hours with you. So if you can't think of your question now, but tonight when you're watching TV and you're like, aha, wait, any of us are happy to help you out on that.
We have one person that had raised their hand.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if we can unmute them.
Yeah. And that's Salmon Enterprises, and asking for someone to reach out to them. So we can connect you to the panelists today and get you some help. This is a great fit probably for you, Luana. Okay. I don't see any other questions. So we really want to thank our panelists. You guys have been great, our presenters. And everybody, thanks for your time today.
Thank you very much, Lisa. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach any one of us. I think Mr. Pajasi is asking how to reach one of us. So we definitely will be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. All right, everybody have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you all. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.